What is up, my Hasbros? It is Monday, September 27th, 2021, and this is your GG Replay. GG Replay is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday show where we break down the latest in gaming news, hosted by us, the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for goofs. We're still workshopping the slogan, but doesn't it just warm your heart, chords? I don't know. I am Paul, and I'm joined as always by Matt. How are we doing today, Matt?
I'm good. At first, I thought you were gonna open up with how are we doing my has-beens, and I was like, oh, that's gonna cut to the core of our older listeners.
It really is, or our younger listeners. Maybe we've all peaked.
Paul, I'm doing really well, especially because our first ever review came out. Mike's review of Deathloop came out yesterday morning. Or yesterday evening. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yesterday evening.
Time is a blur to me at this point. It came out yesterday evening. It's at like almost 600 views right now, which is pretty far and away our most viewed video on YouTube at this point.
Yeah, bonkers.
So congratulations to Mike. Awesome job on a great review. And then I will hopefully have a Kana Bridge of Spirits review coming out soon. I'm gonna try to get it before Wednesday. If I don't get it done before Wednesday, then it's not happening until next week. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, Matt's in the middle of a big move, so it's a busy week here, but we're still making time for our groups out there. It was a great review from Mike. Great to see it. If anyone hasn't checked it out, it is on our YouTube channel right now. Goodnight Groofs, check it out. And to everyone who has watched it, if any of you out there listening to the podcast have watched it, thank you so much. I hope you really, really enjoyed it. We're all hoping to do it's really spurred us along to hopefully make some reviews ourselves, and you'll get some interesting different takes on different games. So a lot of fun. It's something we're trying to branch out into as we expand Goodnight Groofs. And we also have some other cool video projects in the works that we will hopefully be able to tell you about in the coming weeks. Oh, right, Matt, I'm ready to jump into this. I would say today is one of those episodes where we have a lot to talk about. So I think we should jump in.
Yeah.
Before we get right in there, I just want to remind everyone, if you come across any necessary corrections in today's episode, please send them to ggreplayshow@gmail.com or head down to the YouTube comments below so we can address them in the next episode. Matt, the reviews are in. Oh. They're in. I checked the mailbox, full of reviews.
Whoa.
Let's get right started here. There are some interesting ones on this list here. So first off, we got reviews. The reviews are in for Hot Wheels Unleashed. It's an arcade racing game. Got a 74 on OpenCritic. That is going to be out on Thursday. Pretty admirable score. A nice middle of the road score. This is an interesting game. I know a lot of people have good memories of Hot Wheels games a few years ago, for like decades ago, Turbo ones. There's a bunch of Hot Wheels games, I think, over the years. And I think a lot of people were looking forward to this one. From what I can see, it looks fun. The graphics look, colorful, but like also kind of, sharp and nice.
Yeah.
But I would say from the reviews that I saw, specifically pointing out the Noisy Pixel review that I watched, there was definite points where the AI seemed to be really either too hard or too easy, with very little in the middle, which I definitely think is a stressful thing to have. It definitely seems like this game caters more to online, where everyone can be bad together and can kind of figure that out. Whereas I think when you don't have the budget to do like really intense AI opponents, like in like a Forza game or something like that, you really start to see that fall apart a bit more. Matt, is this something that you'd be down to play at some point? Did you play with Hot Wheels as a kid? Were you a Hot Wheels kid?
I wasn't really. I've never in my entire life have I been like a car person, and I know Hot Wheels is sort of a different thing, but even then I was just never really into that. Now, I will say this game potentially looks fun. I think it looks fun mostly if you're like racing against friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, shout out to the Noisy Pixel review. They were talking about how you only have 3 buttons in the whole game, really. And so very simplified racing game, and that's fine. It does look beautiful. The good thing about the discrepancy in AI, whether it's too easy or too hard, at least that can be patched. That can be fixed.
Yes.
So that's a good thing. That's not like some game-breaking thing that can't possibly ever be fixed. So that's good. I assume that this is like a bargain price game. I assume it's not a full price
Yeah,
game.
it definitely
I didn't
is.
actually
It's
really look at it,
talking
but
about those AA kind of games like we've been talking about a lot lately. I feel like this game really fits into that mold.
I feel like this whole thing would benefit from almost turning it into a kart racer with like power ups and stuff instead of just a
Yes,
straight up racer. It just looked a little bit bland to me.
it
Like
did.
visually, it does look cool. It does look cool being on the tracks in like
The tracks look cool too, and they look like interesting and varied.
and in these crazy environments and stuff like that. Like that does look cool, but I feel like Hot Wheels as an idea for a video game just works better as having some sort of
Being more out there,
attacking
right?
other cars and
Yeah,
running them off the track and stuff like that.
yeah, I totally agree. I think that makes a lot more sense when we really key into what is fun about Hot Wheels is we're looking at a game based on, the nostalgia of playing with the toys. And, I think there's a lot of stuff you could do with that to make it a little bit more imaginative than just kind of what the toys were supposed to be. It'd be cool to kind of focus on what the toys actually become for a lot of kids, which is, these devices for imagination, these tools for imagination. The cars start attacking each other or talking to each other or something crazy happens.
Yeah,
I know it's a bit out there, but I agree with you. That'd be cool to have something like that. Maybe there's like a thing to soup them up with like weird stuff you'd find around a kid's room or something. I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
It's something.
anytime I see like little
Yeah,
boys playing with Hot Wheels, they're either doing like ridiculous flips that make no sense in physics, or they're
yeah.
like crashing them into each other.
It looks like Rocket League whenever
Yeah,
you see
yeah,
kids
pretty
playing with Hot
much.
Wheels, and I feel like they could have maybe like tied into that a little bit more. Not tied in, but like tapped into that
Totally.
energy a little bit more. But we're going to be talking more about toys as games today, as I've already kind of teased in the opening screech. So we will we'll get into that a little bit more. But before we do, let's talk about a couple more games that got reviewed. Next up, Astria Ascending. This is a JRPG 2D game. Got a 67 on OpenCritic. It is out also on Thursday. So, if you're a busy Thursday, you can play some Hot Wheels Unleashed and you can play some Astria Ascending. 67, not a great score. From what I saw from reviews, looks to be an interesting story, but also a pretty deep JRPG story that you kind of have to really let yourself get into, which can be tough. And also, I did get the vibe that kind of mixed in terms of combat, fine, but nothing, out of the realm. Seems to be pretty basic in terms of a JRPG entry. Something fun, but nothing, outlandish. What do you think, Matt?
I'm totally uninterested in this game.
Hmm.
It seems like a middle of the road JRPG that has major flaws. I know one of the things, again, shout out to Noisy Pixel, putting out awesome reviews. They talked about how combat is just completely unbalanced, which
Yeah.
in a turn-based combat game, that's not going to fly.
Okay.
I will say the 2D characters on the 2D backgrounds reminds me of Adventure Quest, that old Flash game, if anyone remembers
Yeah.
that. Just more detailed art, and the art isn't bad. It just
The art looks good. Like the backgrounds of the arts are like the scenery and
yeah,
the landscapes and things are actually really cool. The character models on top of them and the way they interact sometimes look a little bit goofy, like a little
yeah,
bit
yeah,
unpolished, but the actual backgrounds are great.
yeah. I don't
Albeit static, so I mean it's not like
right.
horrendously difficult to make static backgrounds like that.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on this. It just doesn't look like there's so many better turn-based JRPGs that you can buy.
Yeah. The concept of the story sounded cool. This like thing where you're like demigods and you have to like trade your life force for powers. Yeah, that sounded kind of cool. But on the flip side, I don't like when I'm not like eased into that story and it sounds like they just plunk you into it. So that'll be it. That's gonna be a no from me, dog. Moving on to something I don't think we'll have a whole lot to say about. FIFA 22. Obviously, we don't even have to say it's a soccer game or football if you're in anywhere but the United States. And that is an 82 on OpenCritic, and it is out on Friday. And it is FIFA, and it seems like a good FIFA. Got an 82, solid score. I mean, it's hard to really get much higher. I think it's FIFA because you have to actually do something different. But it seems like they did a solid job. FIFA is definitely my favorite sports game. So I mean, I'm probably not going to buy a FIFA 22, but it is kind of making me think maybe I should get back on. They have EA access on Game Pass. So maybe I'll go play FIFA 21 or something for a little bit to sate my urges.
I played like maybe 10 minutes of FIFA in like 2013, and
That's when I played a bunch of FIFA.
I
Yeah.
just don't really care that much. Now, you did mention, you said it's soccer everywhere but the United States. In Canada, do you guys call it football?
No, we call it soccer. I
Okay.
just was generalizing because
Okay, I
I
got
was gonna say North America, but I feel like only like I
you.
feel like Mexico
Mexico,
probably
yeah,
also
yeah,
says
football.
football.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much just Canada and the United States as mostly, but yeah, but everywhere else it's not because we also have our own football in Canada. We have Canadian football,
Oh.
which is
Oh,
like
American football.
American
Yeah,
football.
yeah.
Well, it's like American football, but it's actually a little bit different. I think instead
Slightly
of like
different. It's
four
a
downs, there's like
wider
five downs, or
field.
there's like a different thing, but it's very similar. And we have like the CFL and stuff, and the game is played a little differently. But yeah, besides those two things, obviously the rest of the world is football. I actually think it makes more sense to call that game football. So I like calling it football. But I did write football sim initially, and then I was like, Matt's gonna call me out on that, so I'm gonna change it to soccer.
By the way, completely stupid that the Canadian Football League plays with different rules than the NFL when they share players at times at the very lower levels, and then everywhere else in the world where they play American football, they play the same rules as NFL, which is roughly the same rules as college. There are differences, which is roughly the same rules as high school. So like, let's just make it uniform.
It's so strange, yeah. And then maybe we'd see like Canadian football teams getting involved with the NFL, like we see like hockey teams or even baseball teams with the Blue Jays. Maybe something kind of cool to check out. Also, the big trophy in Canadian soccer has a pretty uninspiring name. It's the Grey Cup.
Oh, that's exciting.
Did you win gold,
named
silver?
After someone, I assume, right?
I don't know. Maybe it's Grey, but I'm sure it has like a history that is much more interesting than just the name. But the name is pretty uninspiring. All right, let's get right into the show. Start talking about some stuff. First off, as I teased a couple times, we're talking about Hasbro today. This was kind of the big story of the day. Hasbro is now opening a game development studio. No, it's not just opening any game development studio. It's opening it through its Wizards of the Coast division. So Hasbro, of course, owns Wizards of the Coast, which also has the rights and makes Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, all of that kind of stuff. So pretty cool, right? We're getting like a Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering game, right? Hold on to that. Hold on to that thought for a second. So the Wizards of the studio will be based out of North Carolina. Which is pretty cool. The goal is to create AAA games for consoles and PC. Whoa, AAA Magic the Gathering, sign me up. So the studio lists a few franchises that will be getting AAA games. Starting off with Transformers. Okay, well, I guess they're developing currently a Transformers game, but it's not developed entirely in-house. Okay. So the first in-house game will probably be like a fantasy thing, right? Actually, it'll be G.I. Joe. That'll be their first fully in-house project.
Let me jump in here real quick. I think that a G.I. Joe game, a big budget G.I. Joe game, could actually be really cool.
I'm gonna throw to that too. I will say I'm not like crapping on G.I. Joe here. I'm more just like, why through the Wizards of the Coast division? What logic was the business decision? Obviously, there must be. I don't know. It's probably a business decision. It's probably based on like the funds and where they're set up and where the studio. I understand that, but it's really funny that Hasbro is like putting their game division through Wizards of the Coast, but it's going to be mainly toy games, it seems, so far, which is pretty interesting. They've also mentioned Micronauts and Ouija, or Ouija, I guess, getting franchises.
I don't even know what Micronauts is. Never heard of it.
Remember the name. I was actually going to ask you. I remember the name. I think it was a series of like a bunch of toys when I was a kid, but I can't remember what they actually are. So there you go. Also, fun to mention. I did mention all the Wizards of the Coast stuff, other properties that could be made into games. We have MTG and D&D, but also Hasbro has the rights to Power Rangers, Monopoly, Furby. That would be interesting. Nerf. A Nerf shooter would actually be a total blast.
That'd be cool.
It feels like it would be a AA game, but also I'm fine with that. But also like let's get like a push up a little bit to those AAA games for some of these like goofy toy properties. I would love that. Matt, what do you take from all of this? I mean, I won't lie. When I saw Wizards of the Coast, I got pretty disappointed seeing that it was going to be just kind of a funnel for toy games. But that being said, toy games don't have to be bad. Yeah, what do you think?
I think the only disappointing part of this is that they're likely going to limit the IP exclusively to properties they already own. So we're not going to get like new original stuff. Now, I would love a big budget AAA Power Rangers game. I am totally down for that.
Same. I want big budget Power Rangers everything just to see what weird stuff they could make out of it.
Yeah. That would be awesome. I know that there's a Power Rangers fighting game. I
Battle
think,
for the
yeah,
Grid.
it's on
Yeah.
mobile, right? A lot of people like it.
So no, it's on console too. It's on console
Right, yeah,
PC.
yeah, yeah.
I've played it on console. It's fine. It's got a lot of interesting costumes and stuff from or like fighters from the different genres or sort of the different like generations, pardon me,
Yeah.
of Power Rangers. It was pretty cool. But you know, it's heavily like a low AA fighting game.
Now, I mean, I would love to see that. Looking at the other stuff, I think that GI Joe. I was never a GI Joe kid. I just
So,
know about it from other people. But I think that it could potentially create a really cool game. I know that there's also like a lot of lore in GI Joe. Like there is a
there
lot there.
really is.
Transformers, obviously, I was never a big Transformers kid, but I know that there's a ton of stuff to go off of. Obviously, you could potentially make a really good Transformers video game.
Listen, can we just make a Beast Wars Transformers video game? Can we make so apparently they're making a Beast Wars movie now, and that's going to be the next Transformers thing, which I see again, I didn't like Transformers, but I loved Beast Wars and Beast Machines. Because we couldn't have war in the title in Canada, we called it Beasties.
Beasties.
Beasties. But yeah, I loved all of the lore behind that and the whole concept and all of the transformations. I thought, again, I agree with you, Matt. I'm more of a car guy than you, I think, but I'm certainly not a car guy. And as a kid, I never really cared about the car transformations, but the animals were cool. And I would love to see them like surprise us with that being the game or something. It would be really, really cool. But otherwise, I don't care.
Kind of off topic, slightly on topic because it's somewhat. I don't know. Did you watch Zoids as a kid?
I loved Zoids. I had a bunch
cool.
of Zoids stuff. Yeah, really, really cool. That was one with like Liger Zero and stuff. Big. Oh yeah, I was a huge Zoids fan. Definitely, definitely. That was a cool show. I would love a Zoids game. Incidentally, it would be really, really cool. Or just like Power Rangers, right? Just like lead into the Zords. Let's get weird with it. I don't know. I'm excited for toy games. I think toys are pretty hilarious and over the top, and I would like it. It'd be fun to make toy games that aren't actually tongue in cheek, but actually really go into the worlds of the toys. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of times when they build games off of toy properties, they kind of make it like a toy commercial toy, and they go like, oh look, like there's a little cute little thing where you can tell they're toys, and I'm like, no, 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 no. I want like a AAA. We're leaning into the story here.
Well, I think we're going to learn right off the bat where they go with this GI Joe game. Is it going to be an E-rated game, a T-rated game? Probably not going to be M-rated, but what kind of tone are they going to go with this property?
And how is this going to do overseas too? Like as I saw a lot of people talking about on Reddit too, and even in Canada, GI Joe really is kind of a very American story. I mean, he's a real American hero, and I don't think you have to be American to enjoy the fantasy of that. But I also think there are a lot of places that are kind of like, I don't know, like it never really appealed to me, or I certainly don't even have nostalgia for it. So I don't know. I wonder how that'll do too, or if they really care, if that's really what they're going for. I mean, Hasbro does a lot of business all over the world, but also I feel like America is definitely a big hit. So we'll have to see. I want a Monopoly game where like the Monopoly man gets real creepy and becomes like an Uber boss of some kind. It's like a weird like takedown of capitalism or something. That would be really fun, just as like a goof.
Ouija. What can you go off of with a game, a AAA game for Ouija?
Like a Blair Witch style game or something, some kind of like spooky.
That's got the most freedom out of all of these properties.
Easily, yeah. I mean, you could do anything though. G.I. Joe could be a Call of Duty like game with more story that's maybe more stylized in its art.
Yeah, but you still know what you're getting, right? It's still getting the G.I. Joe characters. With Ouija, it's an original story, original characters.
Yeah, that's very, very true. There's no lore behind Ouija besides, I mean,
the board itself.
In the grand sense, what the board itself is, and the magic behind the board. And even then, I'm sure they could take many liberties because I don't think a lot of people know much about the backstory or how to use a Ouija board correctly, quote unquote correctly, whatever you want to say.
I didn't even know that was a brand name. I thought it was just the name of the board.
It is. So I mean, yeah, they trademarked it and have the brand name. It was originally obviously a cultural or folk thing, but it became
Have you ever done a Ouija board?
Of course, I have done a Ouija board. That was fun. I did it a couple times where we tried to take it really seriously, like just for fun. But then like inevitably there always like a lot of people wanted to do it, and it got like too goofy always, and I was like, it's too bad. Like I would have really and I think now I'm older, I don't know if I'd buy into it in the same way. Maybe I would, but I think those like teenage years would have been really like good if I could have like really nailed down a really creepy Ouija experience. But
Yeah,
I don't know. Have you ever done a Ouija board?
I have not. I'm not like opposed to it. It just
Yeah.
has never come up in my life.
I'm never like, don't disturb the spirits. No, I'm like, whatever, I'll do it. Like if we're doing it, I'll get in on it. Sure, it sounds fun. All right. We're moving on. We talked enough about toys. I mean, I guess my last point on that would just be Nerf game when, Nerf shooter when, right? Like, how cool would that be? That would be so fun. I feel like, we're always talking about like video game violence and stuff. And then you see like these like interesting, weird games, like what's the Squid game on Nintendo Switch?
Splatoon.
Splatoon, yes. That game. That's like a kind of an interesting shooter that takes a different take on it, where you're like shooting your ink at people, and I'm like, Nerf, I feel like would really buy into that really, really well.
But speaking of which, Paul, there's a game called Nerf Legends for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Oh, so there is a Nerf game already.
There's a Nerf game. Wait, hold on. The announcement trailer was last month.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, I see all this.
But it's not being developed by Hasbro. It's Game Mill Entertainment.
Huh. I guess we won't be seeing a Hasbro one probably for a while. It looks like Overwatch. With, I hate to say this, but it looks like Overwatch with like Breath of the Wild thrown in.
It's actually kind of a cool concept.
It's not bad. It looks kind of fun. All right, we'll keep our eyes on that actually, because that looks like a lot of fun. We'll look into that. But that looks interesting.
You'll get a review of Nerf Legends. Hasbro will give us an email.
Oh yeah, Hasbro, absolutely, bros. All right, let's move on. We're talking. What happened to Has by the way? Can we just say? All right. So there was some talk in the last couple weeks. Well, there's been talk since the Steam Deck was announced about anti-cheat software for Linux. So right now, anti-cheat software is only really made for Windows, not really on Mac and Linux so much. Last week we did get kind of a big announcement that EAC Epic's anti-cheat software will be on Linux on Steam Deck, which is really cool. But you know what? That is not the only anti-cheat software. Now we do have confirmation that BattlEye announced on Twitter that they will support the upcoming Steam Deck. So they're making a Linux, version or workability with Steam Deck, and you will be able to have anti-cheat on there. So that's like the two big anti-cheat providers, EAC and BattlEye, which is awesome. We love that. Oh, sorry, it's easy anti-cheat. I said epic anti-cheat, but yeah, same. But pretty awesome. Good to see. It is interesting though. Like, I mean, it's funny saying the Fortnite thing. Like, I don't think there's like a Fortnite client for Linux, which is kind of funny. So I mean, like, I still don't even know if there'll really be like a way to really even benefit from that in the Fortnite side of things, just because I feel like you might have to like side load Windows anyway, or like install Windows anyway. But we'll have to see how that shakes out. Any thoughts, Matt? I mean, pretty basic. Just awesome to see. I mean, clearly there's interest in the Steam Deck being like taking more seriously as a platform.
Yeah, it's basic, but I think it's big news. The fact that these anti-cheat providers are getting in on the Steam Deck mean that they're essentially endorsing it as a means of competitive gaming. So it really is going to be able to be a vehicle for that, as far as shooters or whatever kind of competitive multiplayer games that you play that would use this anti-cheat software. You'll now be able to do that, and that goes along with the whole idea that the Steam Deck can be used as a PC. It doesn't even have to be used handheld. So that, I think that's part of the. If not for that, if that didn't exist, I think it's possible that we wouldn't see this. But the fact that you can just use it as a PC means that it should have this available, so you can use it competitively.
I think it's interesting because like seeing that usability as a PC, it almost feels like as if they left it with that ability. Sorry, thinking about it as a PC, you almost think they might go, "Hey, you could just install Windows on it and use our anti-cheat the way it is." I feel like it's that handheld console dream more than the PC aspect that is really pushing these companies to maybe be like, "Hey, we better put it on Linux. We better make sure it works for the Steam Deck in its normal build." Because average people are going to be using this as it stands as a competitive device. It really lends credence, I think, to the idea that this is more than just a PC. This will be a PC, which is awesome. It's the opposite of what a lot of people are saying. I think that's more than a handheld. It's also a PC. I think it's like more than a PC. It's also kind of like a new console. It's kind of its own new genre. It's like a new category that I think we still have yet to see how that's going to shake out. I'm optimistic, but I know there's definitely a lot of hesitance and a lot of people waiting to see how it's going to go. But it definitely feels like it might just be more than another PC that has PC specs, but almost like a new kind of Xbox or PlayStation or new thing that's kind of have its own garden, but with the walls down, which is kind of cool.
It's starting to feel like this is going to be pretty successful, and it's really starting to it's difficult to see it failing at this point. Like, it really seems like Valve is truly, like, they truly believe in this, and they're really backing it.
They would have to do a very bad job with order fulfillment at this point, or support, which seems unlikely that they would do a bad job with support at this point, like software stuff. It seems like the only way this could really like flop hard is if they have issues fulfilling the orders. But like with the way they've queued everything, it seems really, really well thought out. And at this point, they have so many pre-orders. It's really wild, and you see a ton. I see like almost unanimously like positive excitement for the Steam Deck. If it's not people going, "I'm going to buy it," it's people going, "I'm excited to see what this could mean."
Yeah.
I see very few people who are like, "I hope they don't make this." Like, I don't see that being a thing. So I'm really, really, really excited. It's the Switch Pro we've all been waiting for, and it's cool to see that they're updating anti-cheat so that we can get right in on the ground floor. Because you know what? I mean, I'm a tinkerer, but at the same time too, I'll probably, if I still feel like I'm probably going to get a Steam Deck someday down the line. And I will say that it's probably going to be something that I'll play in just, basic Steam mode. I think it's going to be supported enough that that's going to be really valuable.
I think that there's probably a decent number of people too that would have been holding off on buying a Steam Deck until they found out that anti-cheat was going to be a part of it.
Definitely.
So this helps.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like, that's something I would never even think of, and because I don't really play a lot of competitive games, or I don't think about how they're built in the back end, and so I think it's really cool to just kind of have this seamlessly work. It's another thing that's fun for us nerds than just going to be taken for granted, and something that like everyone else is just going to enjoy. Awesome. All right, let's talk about some single player games after we're talking about anti-cheat, talking about Naughty Dog. We're actually, not single player games. Normally we're talking about single player games. We're talking about Naughty Dog, but today we're talking about multiplayer games at Naughty Dog, the multiplayer game that we've been talking about. They have confirmed that they're still working on their multiplayer project yesterday on The Last of Us Day. We really have a day for The Last of Us? It was just like is that the day when we were all supposed to be wiped out by zombies?
I think it's the same as Outbreak Day, yeah. And it's a day where it all started, and every day they call it The Last of Us Day, and they do like some special community thing.
That's fun. I like that. I like that it's based, like, if it's based around Outbreak Day, that's pretty cool. And so yeah, they have called it, Naughty Dog called this project, the multiplayer project, an ambitious project, quote unquote, and said they'll, quote, reveal more when it's ready, end quote. So I mean, at this point, they're saying it's big. I think they've really been pushing that it's gonna be the first big multiplayer game for them. I don't know. It's starting to feel more and more that this is, if it is going to be this Last of Us Factions game, it's going to be more than like what we've been talking about, where it feels like standalone DLC or something, or like kind of like a mode. This feels like it's going to be a really fully fleshed out experience. Matt, I mean, what's your take on that?
I agree. My long standing opinion has been that this is going to be a standalone product that is probably going to ship alongside a Last of Us Part 2 remaster for PS5, or Director's Cut, we'll call it, because that's what it'll probably be. But DualSense features and updated visuals and any other fixes that needed to be in that weren't in the original game. Maybe some extra content like weapons or something, who knows.
Yeah.
So I think it'll come alongside that, but I think it'll also be a standalone option, potentially a free product as a games as a service with in-game purchasing options. I do think that's a real possibility. I really, really think that's where this game is going. I'm excited about that because I don't think there's any reason to not have faith in PlayStation Studios to be able to pull that sort of thing off.
Yep.
And I think Naughty Dog is part of the reason why it's probably taking so long is they're trying to do it correctly.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you think, quick last question. Oh, I will say also that they have confirmed that they're growing the development team. And again, they've been talking about this on Twitter and talking about this online, and that they're, quote, currently in full swing of hiring for multiplayer related positions. So, this is going to be a big deal here. Obviously, they're still hiring. They're in the midst of hiring for multiplayer related stuff. So this is far from done, and it's definitely being expanded, I think, even at the point we're at, which is really, really awesome. Matt, do you think that story might get wrapped up in this? When you said games as a service, I would assume in that stance probably not. But my initial thought of maybe this is like a standalone single purchase game, like it's a full $60 game maybe, where you get in and you play multiplayer, but maybe there's also like story elements to that, or maybe there's a campaign. Do you think that's possible, or do you think this is more probably going to be about about being in that world and playing multiplayer and getting to play this like fun experience they've created, and more about atmosphere and backstory more so than like actual story being told.
No, I think there'll be story. I think similar to something like Red Dead Online, where there is a storyline completely separate from Arthur Morgan and all that stuff. I think that this Last of Us multiplayer factions game, whatever they end up calling it, I think it's going to have a storyline separate from Joel, Ellie, Abby, all that kind of stuff. I don't who even knows if it's going to be set like after Last of Us Part 2? Is it going to be set between the games? Is it going to be set, I don't know, years down the line from after the end of 2? Who knows? I think it'll be, I mean, maybe even potentially, you have to think that they're considering a Last of Us Part 3, and
of course
some sort of production has started on that in some regard. Maybe it's 2 people working on ideas. Now, maybe this is taking longer because they're developing story to help bridge a gap between Part 2 and a Part 3. Maybe it's taking place between those. Who knows? I don't know. It's impossible to tell, but I do think for sure there's going to be some element of story in there. I mean, that's Naughty Dog. They're storytellers. Right?
Yeah, so that totally makes sense. That's why I'm with the multiplayer talking about that. I often wonder, like, what's the thing that makes this a Naughty Dog game? Because it's interesting to see. I mean, obviously they're changing things up. They're trying to do something different with multiplayer, but I still feel like I imagine that that Naughty Dog stamp is going to be on there somewhere. And I guess I was wondering, like, what do you think about story? So good to know you think probably some story in there. Totally. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But yeah, we're eagerly looking at this game. It is definitely top of mind, I think, because it's being talked about a lot. But we might be waiting a while. All right, moving on, we're talking about Life is Strange Remastered Collection. Now has a date. It is February 1st, 2022. It's an iffy time to be releasing games, folks. Especially a remaster, got to be careful about that dreaded Q1 2022. The collection, of course, includes Life is Strange Remastered and Life is Strange Before the Storm Remastered. It's kind of weird. They're saying they're going to have remastered character and environment visuals, a new engine, which is pretty awesome, lighting upgrades, new engine and lighting upgrades, brand new fully motion captured facial animation in the Life is Strange game specifically, which it sorely needs. And Before the Storm will include some deluxe content because obviously, there's not a lot to remaster there, in my opinion. This is going to come out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, Stadia, and PC. Here's the thing, though. These games came out on these consoles, as you correctly wrote in the notes, and I feel the same way though. Life is Strange was janky when it came out. It was kind of dated when it came out, like in terms of the stuttery movement and the facial animations in a game that's supposed to be so much about walking and interacting and seeing the emotions of other characters. That being said, I believe we've seen some early footage from this remaster, and it doesn't look a whole lot better. It looks just kind of janky in a different way.
Yeah.
And then especially with Before the Storm, that game just came out a couple of years ago. Correct me, maybe 3 years ago, I think, 2 or 3. That game also not, how much do we need to remaster games that came? And obviously they know that because it seems like they're including some content to kind of make up for the fact that Before the Storm isn't getting as many remasters because it frankly doesn't need them. And I'm a huge Life is Strange fan, but what the heck? I'm so I'm a little shocked that they would bother doing this. It really feels I don't know who this is for. That's my thing. Like obviously they came out with True Colors, so it's not like supposed to be kind of getting everyone hyped up before they come out with the next game. It would almost make sense for them to come out with this maybe like the year after because there's probably going to be a drought here in Life is Strange games after True Colors where they have a long time where they're working on the next game or something. Maybe they should wait a little bit because I feel like front loading it like this where they're going to have True Colors and then this come out a few months later and then there's going to be nothing for a very long time. Kind of a strange choice. Matt, does this make sense? What does this seem to you? What do you think they're going for here? I'm not 100% sure is there really a lot of people who are going, I'd love to play Life is Strange, but it looks too janky for me. And this version's really going to throw me over the edge.
Yeah, to me, it comes off way more as just a collection than a remaster. It's weird I'm trying to think of an example, and I don't think there is another example of a game that was on a platform remastered and released on that same platform. That's very strange. Like there is no native PS5 or Xbox Series X version.
No,
maybe
because that got remastered on Xbox One and PS4 and all that stuff. And it came out on 360 and PS. Never mind.
Like that's so weird to me. The reason why I think this is mostly just the collection, it's just so you can buy both games at the same time and have a
Yeah.
few upgrades. Really, it should be free upgrades for the original games.
These games are so easy to
With
get on sale for so cheap.
yeah,
And even with the deluxe editions, like if you already bought the game, which I have, like the deluxe upgrades and stuff are not that much money. They go on sale all the time for like, pennies. I mean, not actually, but dollars, very little. And I just feel like, is this like if it was like 3 games they had, maybe they had Life is Strange 2 in there, maybe
right.
not True Colors, but add a little bit more in there. But just these, I guess obviously they want to tell like the Chloe story or whatever. They want to tell that story, which these games kind of encompass. So it's kind of like, 2 is very different. So is True Colors. But still, it's only 2 games, and I feel like they are pretty easy to buy already.
Yeah, I just don't. The weirdest thing to me, I just don't understand how you can do this and not have a native version for the current generation of consoles.
Yes, that's also the strange thing is that they're doing a remaster, but it's actually not even still native like to the new consoles, presumably to like 4K or anything really. Like,
Yeah, it's
you
just
know,
backwards compatible.
yeah,
That's
which
so
is
weird.
kind of strange to come out with, especially when the whole point of this release is a remaster. Very, very strange. I don't 100% know why. That being said, will I buy this? I don't think so. I'm fine. I have been thinking about replaying recently, but I doubt I'm going to pay more money for it when I own the games and they look fine to me. They also look a way that I just like remember and like. I don't know if I want to like really shift the way people's faces look or move. I don't know if that's really going to do anything for me. But if you haven't played the series before, and all of a sudden this remaster comes up, it goes on maybe a good sale sometime next year. Yeah, it's probably worth it. Is it worth buying on February 1st? I don't think so at full price. And I don't even know, like pricing is going to be another thing to wonder. I don't know if we've seen pricing on this, but I mean, we already look at like the Life is Strange games have gotten more and more expensive. We talked about this recently on another GG replay. True Colors is now a full priced like AAA game price, which it is not that game. It is not a AAA full price like $60 game. It should not be. And like we look at the original Life is Strange coming out like $25, then it went to $40, and now it's $60, and it's like these games have not tripled in quality. And so, if this thing comes out full price and you see the original Life is Strange hanging out there for $5, get that one.
Yeah.
This is my take on that.
My question is it going to pop double trophies? Like when you buy the Ghost of Tsushima director's cut for PS5,
Does that let you do the
double.
trophies twice?
Yeah, because you can upload your save from Ghost of Tsushima PS4, and it's a separate trophy list. Same thing with Spider-Man Remastered. Is it going to pop double trophies? If not, move on. Pass.
Yeah, pass for me. I could go on about it forever, but honestly, it just I love Life is Strange and I love the story of Max and Chloe, and this has not grabbed me. And I'm someone who would like be interested in seeing, like, again, one of the big failings of these games is mocap and facial animations. And if they really, really show me maybe that those are changed, I might be worth it. It might be worth it to me. But from what I've seen, pass. All right, moving on. Final story of the day. But right before we move on to the final story of the day, I just want to remind everyone that right now, stop what you're doing, put down that hamburger, Alan, if that is your name. And you know what? Just open your phone really quick. Maybe wipe off your greasy fingers first. And, just give our podcast on whatever app you're listening to it a 5-star review or a thumbs up or a rating or whatever, positive thing you can. I know it sounds a little silly, but it only takes you about, maybe 5 to 10 seconds. If you're wearing a mask with the Face ID, that might take a little longer. I don't know, but ultimately, under 30 seconds to, really make our day. It helps us so much to get those ratings and reviews, and it helps us up in the algorithm. So if you have a moment to do that, we would really, really appreciate it. All right. Moving on, Matt, to a pretty interesting rumor that I'm always excited about. It couldn't be GG Replay without us talking about some Twitter rumors. Here we have a very unsubstantiated rumor from Special Nick reporting that Insomniac may be working on what? A Marvel game? Insomniac? That's pretty weird. But this is no ordinary Marvel game. The rumor is that they are working on a multiplayer-focused Marvel game alongside Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. Nick says he knows of an alleged PS5 exclusive multiplayer Marvel game and is speculating that it's from Insomniac. So even Special Nick here says the only thing he knows about this, and this is unsubstantiated, the only thing he claims to know is that there's a PS5 exclusive multiplayer Marvel game, and he assumes and speculates that it's from Insomniac. My first thought here is we know Insomniac has 2 teams, and they're pretty busy with 2 major releases. It seems a little weird to me to imagine that they would have an entire multiplayer game, even really in the works. Like, I feel like we'd start seeing job postings, things like that a little bit more. Like we're seeing with Naughty Dog, they are not able to keep their multiplayer game under wraps for very long. It's pretty clear what they're doing, and they've had to start talking about it, obviously. But also on the flip side too, there's so many ways to do like single player Marvel is a lot rarer. I think we see a lot more, we see a lot less single player Marvel games than we have seen like fighting games or Marvel included in like I don't know, team-based games and things like that. I think a multiplayer game is much more open. I think we could see, what Marvel versus PlayStation All Stars, Marvel versus Capcom, Marvel something. We could see a lot of multiplayer Marvel-y games. I think that don't necessarily have to be Insomniac, but I'd love it if it were. Matt, what do you think about this? I mean, do you think this holds any credence? But also, what would you want out of a multiplayer Marvel game?
I think that this is interesting. I don't think it's Insomniac if it is real. I like you said, they have too much going on.
A lot going on.
It would be insane if that were the case. I'm looking at PlayStation Studios right now. I think maybe it's possible that that's what Bend is working on, although I doubt it. I don't think Sucker Punch would be doing that. The only other studio that I think potentially could be doing this is Santa Monica, and potentially what Cory Barlog is working on.
That's an interesting point because Cory did tease that there's like something special that he can't talk about that he's working on. Yeah.
So I think that's potentially possible if this is true. What do I want from this? I don't know, man. I really don't know. I guess some sort of I don't know. It's hard to say. I really don't know.
I really just don't want a multiplayer Marvel game. If you come out and show me one that's awesome, I might really want it. But I can't really imagine what that game would be at this point. I think you probably also I could maybe see the gears turning that you were like maybe co-op in one of these like Wolverine, Spider-Man games, or maybe like some kind of open version where there's multiple people, an MMO light or something. I don't that doesn't sound that good to me, nor worth like a ton of development time at this point. So I mean, if you come out and say we made it and it looks cool, I'd play that. But otherwise, I don't know. I guess a lot of people, I would imagine a lot of people would be excited with Marvel in a fighting game again, maybe in a Marvel versus Capcom or or maybe even we're bringing back, I know it was, I think exclusive to the Switch, but they could be bringing back Marvel Ultimate Alliance maybe, or something in that vein, like a strategy game, a tactical game. I think there's a ton of stuff that could be happening. And I think thinking it's Insomniac, I mean, I don't want to speak for Special Nick here, saying like obviously he thinks that it could be Insomniac and maybe his own reasons for that that are also kind of part of the insider info. But I mean, personally, that doesn't seem like the first jump to me. I think of a lot of other types of games here before I would think of something that's Insomniac would kind of, I don't want to say waste, but like waylay a ton of their good single player teams on.
Yeah, I agree. It's really hard for me to think of what a good Marvel multiplayer game would look like that I would want. I don't know if like I do think here, I'll put this out there. We've talked about before how I like Shadowrun, right? Now to have some sort of third person action team deathmatch sort of thing with like all the X-Men characters or
Overwatch
something like that.
With Marvel characters.
Yes, exactly. Now
a hero deathmatch game. I think that would be really cool.
That's the only sort of thing that I can think of right now that I would like out of that.
That was a good catch. I would have a lot of fun playing that.
Yeah, I think but I don't want just some, unless it's, which I think the Spider-Man game, I think Spider-Man 2 is going to have some form of co-op, but
yeah, it's possible.
I don't want it to just be some co-op game like Ultimate Alliance. I just don't really want something like that from a Sony studio using the Marvel license. But I do think this, if it is multiplayer, I'm thinking multiplayer focused. These other Ultimate Alliance you can play on your own, right?
Yes, you can.
So to me, that means competitive, likely.
Yeah.
So like a Marvel Overwatch type thing could potentially be really cool.
That's definitely something, and you see that a lot in some of these games too, like some of these phone games, mobile games, where you like have hero-based things where they all have their own kind of little loadouts and stuff. And obviously, these games are super, dumbed down comparatively. But I will say I love that idea. Good call. If I can play some kind of objective based or some kind of multiplayer competitive game where you can like hero based playing Marvel Heroes, I would play that. I would buy DLC for it. I would probably get really into that. But it has to be a great game. And I do wonder, like you're saying, I don't know what studios maybe would be able to pull off something like that, or if that's even a focus. Last thing I'll say on this is just that co-op. I'm so nervous about co-op for these single player games. I think they're such well crafted experiences, or at least Insomniac Spider-Man was such a well crafted experience, and I worry that putting co-op into something like that might make it feel gamier, might make it feel more, have like you'll have to have like more menus or spend more time in like load like in like a hub space. I don't know. I just worry about co-op. Like, can your friend jump into your game and then it's your game and not hit their game? And
Yeah.
can you do different missions at the same time across the map maybe, and they're Miles and you're Peter? That scares the heck out of me to think that like that could water down the game in any way. I trust Insomniac a lot with being able to pull off elements of that if that's something that they're going to do, but I have yet to see anything that makes me anything but nervous about that feature.
All right, Paul, are you ready for this? I'm
I'm
going to
very,
give an
very ready.
official slap it up on the fridge prediction here.
Okay, I'm ready.
Guerrilla Games is developing this, and it is the Marvel meets Overwatch type of thing that we were talking about.
Bring it on. I would be so excited.
But they are working on something else, and previously their primary product was Killzone, so they have experience in the competitive space in that regard. So I think it's possible.
That would be very, very cool. Plus, they're like they can use that range stuff. Like, I mean, they've learned a lot, I think, from doing Horizon. It's a very polished game. Very interesting. I would love to see that. That's a great prediction. It's up on the fridge, and we'll have to see how that one turns out. All right, Matt. Today I didn't want to say at the top of the show, but I wanted to say at the end of the show. I mean, I think we had some good discussion, but today was definitely a quantity over quality day. Some of the news here today that just came out. We work with what we have, people, and some of the news that came out today was a lot of stuff, but nothing earth shattering. But it's still there, and it's good to know. Did you see, Matt? Did you see the? I know you didn't mention it in the Last of Us thing, but did you see the first image from the Last of Us TV show?
Yes. I liked what I saw there.
It looked like I saw a lot of people saying from like the thumbnail, it looked like a video game still.
Yeah, when I saw it,
a lot.
I thought it was concept art.
Me too. It looked like art. I think just because of the way the background or like the foreground, it had this weird look to it, and their hair kind of looked like sticky uppy or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it looked totally just like Joel and Ellie. It was really, really cool. I'm super psyched to see Pedro Pascal in this show. I'm really hoping they do like what we were talking about and release the pilot like just earlier than, even if the show's not done, they just pop the pilot out early just to kind of give people something. That'd be so cool.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, exciting. like we talked about, like as a mini movie leading into the series.
Exactly. Perfect. Maybe make an overstuffed pilot. Like, like I remember like Lost did that. It was like 2 hours long or something, like as a pilot episode. And then like the rest can all be normal. Very fun way to do things. All right. Well, Matt, that is going to be it for today's GG replay. But we have a couple things to remind you of before you get out of here. Just you don't forget your lunch. You don't forget your homework. And we have a couple other questions and things to mention to you. First off, just a little reminder that we do have an entire website, goodnightgroofs.com, where we have a blog, videos, we have podcasts, we have our reviews now, like we mentioned at the top of the show, which is also on our YouTube channel, of course. And we have links to our Twitch channel, Goodnight Groofs, twitch.tv/goodnightgroofs, where you can also check us out streaming. We stream events, but also we've been streaming some games recently. Mike recently streamed Deathloop before he did his review, and we're hoping to do some more game streams in the future once we get ourselves all situated. It's kind of a weird September. I think we're all kind of a little bit all out of sorts, but we're going to be back into it for spooky season, I think, which is pretty exciting. Maybe we'll get some spooky games going for that. That would be really awesome.
Would love that.
In addition, we do have a Patreon. So, if you like our content, you do go to the website, check out all this stuff. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/ you guessed it, Goodnight Groofs. And over there, we have a $1, $3, and $5 tier. And the $3 tier, which is our maximum value, does get you early access to our all-encompassing gaming podcast that comes out every week, Game Groofs, hosted by Matt, where we dive into all of the awesome, interesting stuff during the week. And also, we play a lot of fun games, actually, ourselves. We play some fun game show games, so always fun to check out if you're interested in that. Kind of a different spin on a weekly gaming podcast. Matt, oh, one more thing I was going to say before we do our little sign out. Just a reminder, this week's going to be a little crazy, so you might get some interesting guests on Game Groofs. GG Replay. So get excited for those of you who are listening this far in your feed right now. We might get some other Groofs on the line, so get excited for that. Matt, do you have anything else to say before we head out of here for this beautiful Monday?
Well, I think I'm going to run out to Walmart, buy a Ouija board, and consult the spirits from beyond about what they think about this Marvel multiplayer game. Maybe they'll tell me it is Guerrilla Games, and it actually is, indeed.
That's perfect. Maybe Hasbro is developing the Marvel game.
Whoa. Maybe Sony bought Hasbro.
Oh my, and they're not telling anyone, and this is all part of
No longer Marvel versus Capcom, it is now Marvel versus Ouija.
It's now Marvel versus Power Rangers, a Ouija story. All right, that is going to be it for GG Replay today for Monday, September 27th, 2021. But we will see you back here on Wednesday. And also don't forget, if you haven't listened to Game Groofs, it came out yesterday. So what are you doing? Go over to your YouTube or head over to your podcast app and type in Game Groofs, and you will be able to see our all-encompassing gaming podcast. Good night, Groofs.